Party has made history this election by having the largest comeback out of any Canadian election so far, as they went from originally 34 seats last election to 184 seats this election. They've been the sole and most dominant party this country's ever had, with them leading the country for over 85 years. For Confederation, they're known as two separate parties. In Ontario, they're known as the Clear Grits, while in Quebec, they're known as the Parti Rouge, or the Red Party. Even though they were separate, they usually sat together and worked together under all terms. And both of them went after something called responsible government, which was the idea that the people who are democratically elected should rule the country instead of a representative of the Queen or the King in the UK. After achieving the goal of getting responsible government, they eventually led to the rise of Sir John A. Macdonald, which led to the Conservatives ruling Canada for the first time ever. In 1861 then, just before Confederation and the rise of Sir John A., the Parti Rouge and Clear Grit came together to form the Liberal Party. The first time the Liberals won in Canada was in 1874, after the then Prime Minister Sir John A. Macdonald had the first major scandal. With that came a famous explorer, Alexander Mackenzie, who did the first Liberal majority. Ever since then, the Liberals have done a lot of famous and important things for Canada, including bringing a federal free healthcare from the NDP-based one in Saskatchewan, to bringing a Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which helps to advance and ensure there are clear rights and freedoms for every Canadian, to ensuring Quebec does not separate and making sure that immigrants have a popular and important saying within this country. But the Liberals have generally taken a left-of-center stance. This was originally produced in the 1890s, when then leader Sir Wilfrid Laurier, the first Francophone leader of the party, wanted to bring more rights to the immigrants who wanted to come into Western Canada. He wanted to have a big tent ideology. This is an ideology which signifies that instead of focusing on one specific voter base, they'll support all the voters in at least one way. Though this is controversial, as this makes them look weak, but it also allows them to have multiple views on different topics, such as free trade deals. For example, recently the Liberals have supported the idea of free trade deals with the TPP, and in the beginning they've supported reciprocity ideas, which is in the belief that we should have free trade deals with the US. But during the 80s, they were able to also maintain against NAFTA, as they didn't believe it was right for the country back then. In the 1980s, the then Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau helped incorporate multiculturalism within current Canadian society. They've also stood on ideas of having more centralized governments where the government has more power and higher taxes, and the belief that incomes should be the sole factor when it comes to paying taxes. When it comes to foreign policies, they generally believe in having the middle power stance, where Canada will not be the most powerful superpowers and will not act as one, but will not act as a backbencher either, but will stay as a middle power, meaning that they will work with the different superpowers to ensure cooperation on a global stance. This has really been proven by one of our older prime ministers, Sir Lester B. Pearson, who helped ensure that Canada was given important roles during the Suez Crisis and ensured that no World War III did occur during the 50s and 60s. They also believe in a multilateral approach when working with the United Nations and preventing a larger scale wars and ensuring that nothing major happens within the world, in an attempt to ensure that Canada still has power. Some of the famous prime ministers the Liberals have had over the years include Sir Wilfrid Laurier in the 1890s and the early 20th century. He also opened up the West with a new province to Saskatchewan and Alberta. Other famous prime ministers include William Lyon Mackenzie King, who was Canada's longest prime minister, who served for over 22 years. He helped to bring the foundations of Canada's social welfare state and led the country during World War II. After that, we had Lester B. Pearson, and helped to bring the federal free healthcare system from Saskatchewan, brought in student loans and the ideas of a federal Canadian pension plan. It helped to bring Canada's flag and the idea of bilingualism. Came Pierre Trudeau, who helped bring in Trudeau-mania, the very first one, and helped to bring the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which was then emulated around the world as being one of the most forward-thinking constitutions ever made by a country. He also brought in bilingualism and ensured that Quebec did not separate from the country. And finally, our current Prime Minister and the newest leader of the Liberal Party, Justin Trudeau. To find out more about different elections and different processes within Canadian politics, please subscribe to Meaningful Media.